Welcome to When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique Bond.
I'm Dexter Vegas.
And today's episode is Men Don't Have Feelings. This was inspired by a friendly person that shared a very positive message via inbox.
Mhm.
And you know what? We're really interested in, the things that people comment
Mhm.
and share with us, whether it's something that we post or whether it's an upcoming event or whatever the case may be. But a brother said, you know, this is in response to one of our recent webinars that we did. Is man, men don't have any feelings, man. Men don't have emotions. What y'all doing, man? Y'all need to. If y'all want to attend to y'all emotions, y'all need to cry. Y'all need to go to y'all mama.
Good mama.
That's what he said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, it comes with the territory. We knew that when we started this platform that a lot of our content would probably rub some people the wrong way. But it will also give voice to people who struggle with these issues and not been able to properly speak on them. And so, hey, listen, when we started the comment, we don't get bent out of shape. At the end of the day, I think I was that person at one point in time too. I know I was that person at one point in time. Just the reality is that as a man, what I recognized is that I was living a life that was a facade in many ways. You know what I'm saying? Not that the things I was experiencing were fake. It's just the reality is I did not know how to fully express what I was going through, and we'll go a little further into those things as we progress through this particular episode. But the reality is that a lot of men struggle, but we've been conditioned to believe that we can't talk about those issues.
Right.
And so, I think this guy's comment, because actually it was a few people. So for the most part, when Dominique
this is constant.
Yeah, when we get messages, we had 10 messages. 8 are normally very positive. The 2, are hey, why are you guys doing that? Why y'all talking about that? And so, one individual at one point in time said, hey, men don't have feelings. You guys are crazy. And then this other individual said, hey, why are you guys talking about men should cry on other men's shoulders? We should be teaching men to be, warriors and strong and all of that. And, from my position, I don't see that as wrong. I just think it was not the total truth. You know what I'm saying? I think he skipped some steps. And so a lot of what we talk about is once again being balanced, you know what I'm saying? But when you start to overly focus on one area, you have an unstable man. And so hopefully through our platform, you consistently hear the message of balance and stability as a man.
Yeah, and I think what we want to do is we want to provide greater context in a more positive and healthy context, especially to what he said, because you basically summed up the perspective and the mindset of those individuals or those of that group of people who believe who have those beliefs. They believe that men should be strong, they should be anchored. That's one of the terms to use.
Yeah.
And that we don't have time for that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a perspective that for men we have so many responsibilities. Our families are on our shoulders. We have to do X, Y, and Z. We have all these people relying on us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we attend to those emotions, who else is gonna take care of X, Y, and Z?
Exactly.
And that's the Bible. I think that's a very good question. The thing is, when it comes down to when it comes down to that mindset and that perspective, I think now there's a shift, and I'm glad many of us now are starting to be more, are starting to verbalize more about our feelings and our emotions and so forth. But when we look at a lot of different things, when it comes down to men, we can talk about that and we can say, what, it's a waste of time. But the research and the data says otherwise.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the suicide rate is climbing. There's a reason why so many men are feeling hopeless, having feelings of hopelessness. There's a reason why so many men are feeling lonely and so forth. And there's a reason why a lot of men, when they suffer with some type of loss, and when we say loss, that can mean grief, that can mean a loved one, that can mean finances, that can mean a house, that can mean friendships. The list goes on and on and on. We do a bad job handling. And since we do a bad job handling that because we don't have the coping tools, we don't have the emotional intelligence, we are not anchored. We're not anchored. So the question is, well, we're trying to challenge people and really help equip people. And I'm glad this brother, he shared that message because it made us understand that, let's go over this again.
Yeah.
And maybe this needs to be a consistent thing because we're constantly getting new followers and so forth. But in order to be anchored and be strong, so forth, it's understanding how do I handle these things that I am going to approach, or these things are going to come my way, because life is full of challenges, it's full of obstacles. But the question is, how do we handle those things? As human beings, we are emotional beings. There's no way you can say it's irrelevant, but as a human being, you are an emotional being. And the question is, how do I handle this? What's really going on? And how do I move forward from whatever situation that I'm experiencing?
So, let's talk about the root of the issue because, and we've talked about this on some previous episodes, but much to what you were just saying that, we do have new followers. And so, you may be catching us, while we're, pretty far removed from this particular topic. But if you think about it, as a man, and I'm 40 years old, I turned 40 this year, and so I believe, if you're of the age of 40 and older, you can definitely probably relate to what I'm getting ready to say. And I dare to say that this is probably similar for some 30 some odd, year old men as well. But if you think about it, when we were growing up, if you cried, if you were hurt, you probably heard something like "suck it up." You probably heard something like "man up." You probably heard "stop crying and acting like a little girl." And so keep in mind that as a child, you're hearing all of this. Your anatomy, your physio, excuse me, your makeup tells you that, hey, I'm a male, I'm a boy, I'm not a girl, so I'm already being told that it's the characteristics or the nature of a female to cry. Because I don't identify myself as that, let me not uh, show forth my emotions because I don't want anybody to call me outside of who I am. And so at whatever age this was your experience, like I said, for most of us, I can go back to probably age 6 when I remember it most vividly. So from 6 to 40, so you're talking about a span of 34 years. The majority of my life, I was told that men couldn't emote, that we don't show emotions. And so what you end up having is you have a man who he's still going through stuff because life, has the ability and has the tendency to test you. You will go through stuff in life. But what you have is a man who's not equipped to handle the trials of life. We know how to go out there, we know how to get it, but we don't know how to handle the stuff that's going on inside of us. And that's because, in those formative years, we attributed those coping mechanisms as being, feminine. And so what you have is a man who, by way of indoctrination, has become detached, not from society, but he's become detached from himself. The stuff that he's feeling is inconsistent with what he believes a man is supposed to be. And so what you have is you have this back and forth wrestle in your own mind. Yeah, man, I'm going through, but I can't tell anybody because the first time I tell somebody, they're going to think that I'm weak. And so I have to figure, as a man, I have to figure it out on my own, you know. And so I know there to be a lot of men who this is their reality. Like I said, I really just came to a point in my own life within the last 7 years when I really started to learn some of these skills. And it was in a work environment, so it wasn't that, you know, I did it on my own, but through my colleagues, you know, they put the pressure on me to say, hey, you know what, you don't know how to talk about your emotions, you know. So as a smart man and a smart individual, you lack emotional intelligence, you know, and that was that's a punch in the gut to me. But the reality was that was true. I knew that. I knew when I was okay, which is not a feeling word. It's not an emotion. I knew when I was angry because, you know, I was angry quite often, you know. But the reality is that I couldn't tell you that I'm experiencing anxiety. I couldn't tell you that I'm nervous. I couldn't even tell you that I was afraid, you know, even though all of those things were going, you know, for any given certain situation. But the reality is that I lacked the language to describe what was going on inside of me. Now, much to what Dominique was saying earlier, what you now have is you have men who can't escape what they're feeling because they don't see any sign of hope. They don't see any light at the end of the tunnel as far as being able to shake those emotional lows. We start seeing uptick in things like suicide, you know, and for anybody who's been in the military, one of the main things that, as it relates to the topic of suicide, they always relate it to resiliency. And there's a reason why they equate resiliency to suicide. They pair up the two. And it speaks to what are you doing to keep yourself mentally and emotionally healthy. And so even if the military can see it, then what is keeping us from giving consideration to the fact that, you know what, I don't really have the skill set to make sure I'm emotionally healthy. Mm-hmm. If I'm physically, you know, going through, I know how to, you know, take some vitamin C, drink water, go to the gym, you know, I can bounce back pretty quickly as far as the physical. But emotional, what do I do when I lack the language to win and make sure I'm okay in that area?
Most definitely, and to add to that, you brought up some great points. I think what's also important is we have not gained or developed a sensitivity to be emotionally present in other men's lives.
Yeah.
So we have to also understand, you know, how often are we reaching out? We know that our brother has had this traumatic experience in his life, or a big loss in his life, or has a great challenge, you know, in front of him. What are we really doing as well? It's not our job to be a hero, but why can't it be? Why can't we take some type of part or participation in reaching out, calling, you know, maybe doing a little home visit to see what's going on, talking to them about whatever it is that's causing this great anxiety in your life. And we have lacked those, you know, just the know-how when it comes down to be emotionally present. I think another thing that I wanted to mention is this is very, very important for men to understand, so we can kind of backtrack I would say, the toxic beliefs that we have accumulated. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is fathers, uncles, mentors, coaches, the list goes on. We have young men in our lives, and we have the opportunity to instill some great things in them that we probably struggle with, that we probably came up short with, and so forth. You know, teaching them how to express themselves, getting them that safe space to allow them to express themselves, maybe not get in the habit of always telling them to suck it up, depending on the situation, and really encourage them to say, all right, what's really going on? Allowing them to really express themselves, because what begins to happen is you are encouraging them, you are helping them develop a language and a level of communication skills as well that can really benefit them in so many aspects of their life, whether it be their career, marriage, relationships, friendships, the list goes on. So this is very, very important uh, because there are a lot of challenging situations, obstacles that we're gonna have to have some type of toolkit in order to, you know, in order to address and so forth. So as fathers, I really encourage you to really develop a space for your sons, nephews, the mentees in your life, and really encourage them to be emotional, but to really gain that balance with them understanding, okay, why am I feeling like this? Where did this really stem from?
Yeah.
Why do I have this great passion in my life? Passion is it's a high emotion, it's a great emotion. When you understand passions in your life, you begin to understand more about yourself. Something that I always say, and I posted this as well, is, you know, one of the statements that I really hate and have a huge issue with is when we say, you know what, we have to learn how to take emotion out of it. As humans, it's not necessarily that we need to take emotion out of it. I actually think we need to address it. Because if emotion is really driving you to make certain decisions, there's a reason for that. And if we understand more of that, of our emotions, what really drives us, what really motivates us, what really pushes us, it begins to help us understand more about ourselves as well. So in turn, being emotionally intelligent helps you become more logical in your life. So it's very, very important not to remove emotion, because I don't think you can ever completely remove emotion. There's a certain level of balance where it's not the driving force in your everyday life. So let's understand more about our emotions. Let's really gain more understanding, so we can really become more logical in our lives and so forth.
I mean, that's good. And I appreciate you talking about the father and the son dynamic. You know, we talked about this on the episode, was it Dad, Do You Love Me? I think it was. And, and I shared that, the men in my family, we're not emoters, and how, it wasn't until I was like 20 something when, I think the first time I recall my father saying that he loved me. But, as we trace the story, my father had never heard his father say it. And so my father was in his 50s when he, asked my grandfather, why is it that you never said it? And my grandfather said, well, I never heard it. And I bring this up because, you know, from a spiritual standpoint, there's something called generational curses, and I'm not trying to go too far in the weeds on this, but a lot of generational curses are what we predecessor doing it, and then you do it, and then you continue to teach that behavior to those who come behind you. And so I bring this example in my own family is because what we have is three generations spanning 80 plus years where the language of, being able to emote was non-existent. Uh, and, now that I have sons of my own, it was getting ready to impact them as well.
Yeah.
And so, I had to be the one to say, hey, we're going to change this narrative in our family. And so the reality is, gentlemen, it's not that men don't have feelings. We very much so have feelings. It's part of our genetic makeup. Like I said, the reality is it's just we've been indoctrinated to believe that it's not consistent with our masculinity. And because we believe that, we suppress it. But you don't only suppress stuff for so long before it begins to manifest in other ways, whether it be those fits of rage, or whether it be a health issue, or whether it even be, the suicide, Yeah, at some point in time, what you've been suppressing is going to give way. It's going to show itself. And so, this is not only a necessary conversation, but it's necessary for us to really do some self-examination and ask ourselves, why do I hold on to this belief? Like I said, at one point in time, I knew anger very well. That was a ready feeling, that was a ready emotion. But once again, as a man, I understand that what's most important is to be balanced. There are times when all emotions or all feelings might, they have their place. You know what I'm saying? But I can't be angry in every given moment. The reality is I need to ask myself what's going on. What about this made me angry? In discovering the answer to that, what it does is now puts me in a position where I don't let anger get the best of me the next time
Right.
around.
Most definitely. And I want to encourage, the brothers that's listening in, because something that we do, especially with having a podcast and doing some other things as well. Obviously, things can get very, very hectic, and we had not just days, but we had weeks where we say, "Man, this is a break." We just needed it because of all the work that we were doing, and not just the work that we were doing, but there was other responsibilities outside of the platform as well. But we would do a mental check-in. We just knew that when we have business meetings, it can't just be just business. We have to also understand that there are some other aspects that can interfere with what we're trying to do as well and interfere with our productivity. So we understand that we also on a business level we also have to have, and not just business but as friends as well, that we have to have that sensitivity of really just check in with each other and say what's really going on, how's things with the marriage, how things with your wife, the kids, how are you doing with self care and so forth. So what I'm telling everyone to do is to have that mental check-in, really just have those deep conversations, those personal conversations outside of sports, outside of just having fun and so forth. Really just go there because there are a lot of things, because we have this belief and because there is this stigma, many of us are friends with individuals who are going through some very, very personal, deep things, challenging things, and we don't even know about it. You get what I'm saying? There was another brother who I actually knew that died by suicide, and I had no idea. I had no idea. And there's some other people that was friends and connected with him, and they had no idea as well that he was at that place. And what I'm saying is, you just never know. People are very, very good at hiding things that are really just eating up inside. So I encourage you to have that mental check-in with the people that you consider your friends, with the people that you say you love, and so forth. Ask yourself how often are you really checking in with each other, because so many of us are going about life and we just believe that what, I can't put this on anyone. No one will understand. I don't really have that real relationship where I can have that conversation and so forth. Or what, if I do share this, they just gonna brush me aside. So with that being said, take the initiative and really have to do that check.
Man, that was good, my brother. In the wise words of somebody, when everything has been said that needs to be said, say no more. And so, um, like I said, we definitely just wanted to give some attention to some comments that we have received. Like I said, we get a lot of positive, but every now and then, we get comments like these that men don't have feelings.
Don't sugarcoat it. We get a lot.
Yeah, we do. But the reality is that our platform was really founded on this reality.
Exactly.
Because we recognized that a lot of men were going through issues, and because they didn't have an outlet to let those issues come out, they were taking their lives. And that's the reality. And so, Dominique and I said, let's create a platform where we, through transparency, we model what it looks like to have these conversations. And in doing so, it's our hope that we serve as a catalyst for men out there to start having these conversations amongst their own, peer groups. And so that's why we're here. But like I said, you know, these comments just kind of let us know that one, we're on the right track, but two, we also have a lot of work ahead of us. So, as always, we really do appreciate you all support.
Most definitely. And to the brother that shared that inbox message, we really appreciate you.
My man.
Gave us another reminder to go over this. But to all our followers, we really appreciate the support, the love. Give us some feedback on this video. Inbox us, share us, email us, info@whenmenopenup.com. Go to whenmenopenup.com for any updates and so forth. But this is When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique Bond.
I'm Dexter Biggins.
And we are out. Thank you so much.